Happy Halloween, everybody, and I have a very special surprise for you. Yes, Haunted Castle, the arcade remake that I did, is completed, and it's come out better than ever, as always, and not to be confused with the remake, what was called Revisited. They came out on like PlayStation and Xbox and all those. This is different, right? Of course, I'm going to show screenshots of it, of some gameplay footage of it. I like to retain the essence of what the game was to begin with, and that's kind of like my shtick that I do with all of my games. So the revisited one that was made is like a complete overhaul, different graphics, different enemies, the levels have been changed, etc., etc. Mine's not like that. I like to keep the original graphics of the arcade, just spiced up a little bit more, such as parallaxing backgrounds that weren't in the original arcade, parallaxing foregrounds, and some of the arcade did have some parallaxing foregrounds, but I expanded on the stages in terms of I added more stages to that stage. So to, I don't know, put it in an example, the original stage 3 or something would be separated into 3 different stages. I added an extra stage to that because I thought that it just wasn't long enough. I wanted to give the players more content. I added the axe weapon that wasn't in the original arcade. I changed all the weapons to make them better, but mainly I also changed the controls, because if anybody played the original Haunted Castle arcade, it was one thing that really bothered me the most, was that the controls were, it felt like the actual arcade was incomplete when it came out. It just wasn't finished, it wasn't polished, certain things were missing, and so the controls felt clunky. They would freeze sometimes, especially while going upstairs and such, and it was very, very frustrating. So I cleaned all that up. It feels a lot smoother with the controls now, and the whole entire game flows properly, especially while going up and down stairs, jumping from platform to platform, and everything feels silk smooth now. Some sound effects have been changed in it as well. You will notice that I've taken from some other Castlevania games, because I just didn't think some of the sound effects were that great in the arcade, but I did take some from the arcade. It was very difficult. Don't ask me how I did it, okay? But it was kind of like a fluke, and it glitched out when I'll tell you anyway. I mean, I have a real quick story. I was playing it on MAME. I was emulating it on MAME, and then it glitched out and one time, and it was a total fluke, where the music just wasn't playing anymore, but you could still hear the sound effects. And I was like, oh man, I got to take advantage of this. So I played it as much as I could, recording as much sound effects as I could from the arcade, because you can try to Google it and try to look up a soundboard or something for this game. You're not going to find it. I dug deep down the rabbit hole and could not find it anywhere, so it was hard. So there are still some sound effects from the arcade in there, but then some from other Castlevania games that you may recognize that I still would think seem appropriate to the game. Not only that, the music. So I have the original music soundtracks from the arcade put in, and then I always like to do this in some of my games and give the player the option to switch music. Now, you could say, well, Ed, are you going to put in the revisited music in there that you can listen to as well? I listened to it, and I personally didn't like it. It sounded very metal, like there's a lot of heavy guitar riffs and stuff like that in it. I think that it just didn't fit it appropriately. So what I did was I put in the option to listen to the highly underrated Castlevania Chronicles that only came out on the original PlayStation, and that was essentially a remake of I can't remember what it was called, a Dracula X game or something on I can't remember the system. I'll put it down below. I'm just pulling a brain fart right now. But the point is that those soundtracks are wonderful. I would say that they are probably my second favorite Castlevania music soundtracks, as opposed to Symphony of the Night. They are highly underrated, and I had to have people have the opportunity to listen to these tracks while you're playing the game, and I think that they fit it much more appropriately than the revisited ones did. Another cool thing that I wanted to add that was not really in the arcade very well, or it was kind of like an afterthought, it was just a very weird thing, and it's not in revisited at all, and that is, there is a certain part in stage 3 where all of a sudden Simon goes through this portal door, and then leads to some kind of spirit stage. It's not even really a stage, it's kind of just like a room, and then some harpies come down, and then he kills them, and then he warps out of the spirit world. I don't really, it's so weird and obscure that I don't even understand it, but I got a great idea for it though, and I implemented this into the game. I've put in secret areas that you have to find, where you find these warp doors, and you never know where they're going to be. You're just going to have to look for, you know, little clues that I've put on the stages of where they are, and those will lead to actual secret rooms that, by the way, people have suggested quite a bit that they wanted. They love finding secrets in the game, right? So on every single stage I put one of these portal doors that you can find, and that will lead you to other candles, other loot, and other weapons, and maybe some food to heal yourself. I thought it was a very, very cool idea, so check that out. So that's it. I've come out with Haunted Castle, the arcade remake. Came out excellent as always. That means that I have launched 2 games, I think, this year. You know, I launched Contra Force Ultimate. I mean, check that out. Everything's on my website. You know where to go, retrovideogames.store. And I hope you guys enjoy it this Halloween. And I hope that you leave me some comments down below. And if, of course, as always, you like the comment, hit the like button up there. And of course, smash the subscribe button. That's what they always say, right? You have to smash it. Just like you're smashing pumpkins on Halloween, and I hope you do that. Some people actually already did it out on my street. I'm just like, oh, those hooligans, and you know what I mean, those little rascal kids. Brings me way back to the times when I used to do it. But hey, I'm an old man now, so we don't do stuff like that. But we got to live vicariously through the children of our forgotten youth. But anyway, happy Halloween, everybody, and enjoy the game.